us get into the crisis in the Middle East. As promised, we have all my panelists ready to go. We have Dr. Duncan Ojwang, who is an advocate and international humanitarian law lecturer. We have in the studio Nicodemus Minde, who is a researcher at ISS, the Institute for Security Studies. We also have on set Dr. Edgar Githua, diplomacy and security analyst. And we have joining us virtually from Kisumu, Ivan Zogada, who is another advocate on the bench, so to speak, this morning. And he is also a public international law lecturer. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Of course, the big story from this weekend nationally is a chopper crash that claimed the lives of 6, including the Mourning member of parliament, Johana Nge'no. I just figure I would be remiss in not allowing you maybe the opportunity to say something, condolence, maybe send some condolences. I will start with you, Dr. John.
Yes, of course, I know Mheshimiwa Nge'no. Was not able to know the company that he had. Is somebody who is so passionate on the issue of human rights, and he just became an advocate, and I think that it's a big loss. I know that a lot of people are mourning, and I will want to extend my condolences to his family, his constituents that he loved passionately, and to Kenyans, including his leaders from Kipsigis, Kalenjin, and the entire, even his party, and really across the country. I'm very sorry.
All right, because we have 2 advocates on the panel, I don't know whether to just say you associate yourselves with your yes, his remarks, but anything you'd like to add?
Well, of course, as my colleague has mentioned, is to send condolences to the MP and the people of this constituency, and of course, Kenya in general, but also the other families who have lost their loved one in the helicopter crash. And of course, it's a sad day for them and their families. And of course, as Kenya, we send condolences to the family.
All right, Dr. Githua, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Olive. Condolences to his family and to the constituents of Mourning. Of course, it's sad, just like what Prof. Ojwang was saying. He was a staunch defender of human rights. We have many clips of him even, standing in the way of police when there was some issue happening in his constituency. So he's going to be missed by his constituents, and we wish may his soul rest in peace, and we wish his constituents, this time as they are going through this grief, they'll be able to come to terms and be able to get another leader who can emulate him and, fill his shoes in representing them in parliament.
You've just reminded me of one of the headlines I saw, a fearless leader.
Yeah.
Wakili, I know I say Wakili, Dr. Ojwang might also respond yes. I'm referring to Wakili Ogada. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, good morning, and good morning to my friend Dr. Ojwang in studio. Good morning to the rest of the panelists. I also happen to have known the late MP, very passionate person, only recently admitted as an advocate. All I can say is my condolences to his family, and my condolences to the rest of the passengers who are to the families of the passengers who are in the ill-fated chopper. My condolences to those who have been affected by that crash. Thank you.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, so now we get into another event now that has captured the imagination of the world. This has to do with U.S.-Israel Operation Epic Fury that was launched on Saturday, and that saw the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, killed in a strike. His compound, his daughter, grandson, I think, son-in-law. Big events. They've been retaliatory attacks. We carried a story this morning with Iran hitting some of the Gulf states. The Dubai airport, for instance, operations have been suspended there. We've seen a couple of hotels which have also been struck, and the UK also involved in what they say is defensive measures. So just maybe to get your initial thoughts, I know Dr. Edgar Githwe I asked you this on Saturday night, but let me start with Dr. Ojwang. Does this turn of events come as a surprise to you?
I think it does, but opportunity availed itself. Maybe briefly just to say that under the use of force and the UN Charter, there is a place of what we call just war in case of self-defense. And if you move from there, it has also been accepted that you can have preemptive strike or defense if the threat is imminent. And so the question that disturbs and probably is not sitting well with international law is a place for preventive. I don't like so-and-so, I don't trust them, therefore I'm going to hit them before they hit me. The threat doesn't look so imminent. And so in terms of international law, there is no very strong ground for this attack. But be as it may, we move from the law of war and why to wage war to now that there is war, how to do it in a humanitarian way. But I think with all the destruction, Trump was also suffering from the Epstein tapes. Now nobody's talking about them. And the opportunity that Israel got to finally have concurrence of the US to deal with Iran, but the implication is bigger. It wasn't expected, but they have been talking about it, and finally it is here. The world is bigger than it exists in the mind of international lawyer, because international lawyers will think this is a violation of international law and the UN Charter. You are seeing even the UN running behind America and trying to say this is a strange animal.
Okay. Just allow me to bring in the other advocate at this point, because questions of international law have come up. Wakili Ogada, what some of the words I've picked out of what Dr. Ojwang has said is, imminent threat, preemptive,
preventive.
And I'll add one, because he's talked about the Epstein files, possibly destruction, but at what cost? What, in your view, Wakili, is the U.S. looking to get out of this offensive?
Well, I will repeat what I said on Saturday, that this war was totally needless. Remember, the US, the Iranians had been engaged in behind-the-scenes negotiations, and we are informed that, is it Bahrain? Most of these Gulf countries were involved in these efforts towards diplomacy. Certainly Qatar has been front and center in terms of these diplomatic efforts. Now, how did this war start? We see the Israeli Prime Minister agitating towards the last week. The posture from the Americans was that we don't want to go to war. It is said that the chief of staff, the equivalent of the CDF in the US, said we don't need to go to war. Congress was against this. But Netanyahu edges the war on. Towards what end? And when my good friend, Dr. Ojwang, says there are talks of preemptive strike, a preemptive strike is called on in the case of self-defense. Do we have anything on the table to show that Israel was conducting an effort in self-defense? Certainly not, because when you conduct self-defense preemptively, the law requires that you table the evidence before the Security Council. So America or any of the Israeli friends in the Security Council could have convened a meeting of the US Security Council to table the evidence so that the UN ratifies the action or calls to a stop. But that has not happened. Again, like I said on Saturday, we have seen a pattern where the Israelis, particularly Benjamin Netanyahu and his hawkish ministers, supported by their friends in the US, have been edging on taking on Iran. And that negates any justification for the war that was started on Saturday. Last week, sorry.
All right. I'll ask you to come in at this point.